So we look into the judiciary and the fight against corruption. You were saying something.
Yes, the renewed effort of the federal government in fighting corruption has elicited so much interest, with the role of the judiciary becoming the focal point. It seems that there is no way that this country can fight corruption without the support and cooperation of the judiciary. Now, we have 3 legal practitioners in the House this morning to dissect this for us and tell us how we're going to fight this fight without their involvement. Malaki Ugumadu is the National President of the Committee for the Defense of Human Rights. Good morning.
Thank you for the opportunity again.
He was like our in-house legal analyst for some time, and then he took off on a walkie-walkie. Welcome back.
Thank you again.
On my left is Mr. Wahab Shitu. Good morning.
Thank you for inviting me.
As well as Mr. Johnson Esezobo.
Thank you very much.
Yes. So it's raining lawyers this morning, and we'll be looking at the judiciary and the fight against corruption. Let me start with you, sir. Mr. Agumado.
Yes.
Do you think that the judiciary can exonerate itself from the allegations of clear corruption in some particular matters?
That is like asking a confirmed thief whether he is no longer a thief. I'm not saying that the judiciary is corrupt, but I'm saying there have been reports which are yet to be discountenanced in terms of the credibility, establishing that there is corruption in the judiciary. Even the bodies that are associated with the judiciary, MBA inclusive, has also made comments to that effect. We can all remember the Justice Kayode Shaw's report. All of those reports have not been discountenanced. What is important is not what we say as collaborators and practitioners in the judiciary. What is important is what we do, realizing that there are incidents of corruption in the judiciary. Now, it is a profound challenge, essentially because you cannot think of fighting corruption in a constitutional democracy without a judiciary that is above board. The reason being that any manner of fight or campaign against against corruption that does not recognize and observe due process will also lead you to precisely where you are taking off. And therefore, the bigger challenge, other than the blame game, is what then will happen. We've seen a lot of recommendations along those lines to say that it's not just to mount the fight against corruption. There are institutions that must be properly in place before you can deal with the challenge of corruption. One of such institutions is the judiciary. Luckily, it is an arm of government. The same way you recognize the executive, the legislature, so also the judiciary operates as an arm of government. But they have a special and sensitive role, and that is to determine the propriety of the interplay of political forces. They intervene to resolve issues, including issues of corruption. Therefore, their independence cannot be compromised. Their funding, their training, their impartiality, but above all, and this is the one that worries us, and I'm happy you introduced me as the present president of the Committee for Defense of Human Rights. We are particular about the ideological rooting of our judges. Indeed, in some other climes, civilized democracy is a big issue. People want to know what manner of presidents that a candidate would likely appoint. That also sways the voting pattern. And therefore, we are interested in judges who look at the law not as it is, but as it ought to be. And only then can you make the necessary progress and, you know, shift from the status quo.
Okay. Okay. Now, he said that the judiciary has a special and sensitive role to play in corruption. Mr. Shitu, how well do you think the judiciary has fared in this fight against corruption?
Well, thank you very much. I think it is fair to say that when we make a general statement that the judiciary is corrupt, we will be very unfair to a lot of elements within the judiciary who are above board. But to also deny that corruption does not exist in the judiciary is to deny the obvious. So you understand me? What I'm saying is that there are few bad eggs in the judiciary who are giving the majority of the integrity-driven ones a bad name. And we need to flush out these bad eggs. Because the fight against corruption is a collective fight. And at the forefront of that fight is the judiciary. Because corruption-related cases go to the judiciary for adjudication. And so the judiciary must embark on self-cleansing. You cannot fight corruption if within the system itself we have incidents of corruption. And so the judiciary as the foremost institution to deal with this monster must cleanse itself of corruption. And how will the judiciary be able to do that? It is important that the independence and the autonomy of the judiciary is guaranteed. It is also important that those who function on the bench are competent in terms of integrity, in terms of probity, in terms of transparency, in terms of knowledge of the law. Again, it is also important that there's incorruptibility of the bench. I read a comment that said a judge that is corrupt is far more dangerous than a madman who runs amok. Because that judge destroys the moral foundation of the society. Because the judiciary is seen as the last hope of the common man. Mm-hmm. So if the judiciary is to be able to deliver on its mandate effectively against corruption, then cases bordering on corruption must be dealt with in accordance with the prescription of the rule of law.
Okay. Now, Mr. Johnson,
yes.
Both speakers have spoken about the independence of the judiciary. How much independence do you think the judiciary currently enjoys?
When you talk of independence of the judiciary, you are speaking in terms of its ability to fight corruption. In other words, you want the judiciary to be independent before it can fight corruption. I have a different view. Independence to me is a state of the mind. It flows from the mind. It's not the structures you put in place to insulate me from you that will make me perform. If I am not called as a judge, that is, if I don't have the calling of a judge, I cannot perform the job of a judge.